Monday, sports fans. Thank you for coming over to the DFS 5-pack. We're going to talk through the Showdown Captain Mode slate for Monday Night Football. Matt is here with us, getting ready to go off to the Indians game here in about an hour. Think they're going to get this one? I do. I got faith in you guys to try to at least make this one a series.
First off, thanks for Draftkings for hooking me up with a couple tickets for today's game. Should be a good time. And yeah, I'm still a little negative about it because I'm nervous, but you've got me feeling more optimistic about it. And I know you keep it straight. The last couple of days, you've kind of put me in my place when I thought Cleveland was going to win. So, I mean, listen, it's do or die at this point. So hopefully they can save their season and extend it another day. I'm pumped.
That's what's funny when people do fantasy sports analysis and they bring their own teams to it and things like that. I feel like you are way too generous to your team. I feel like I'm probably way too hard on my team. Like I try to overcompensate and, you let your fandom come in. It's hard to look at your team rationally in sporting perspective. It's just difficult, right? Like
what's funny is like you're so right. And all year I was never really on Cleveland that much because, nothing really mattered. And I always stayed away from them. They were really expensive. But now once it mattered, I had like these delusions of grandeur where, Verlander wasn't going to pitch that well when, like you said, looking at the game log, as much as we've been talking about Marquez and all those other guys, I mean, Verlander had honestly maybe even been better than DeGrom for the past month. So that was just a little bit foolish. There's no other way to put it.
Right. And I'm probably too hard, like on the Packers and things like that.
For sure.
It was great in years past. Insert quarterback event against the Green Bay Packers, play them. You're going to be successful for DFS. And it doesn't always work out that way, but the quarterbacks against the Packers were generally like a money spot on almost a weekly basis. Anyway, let's talk Monday Night Football, guys. Let's talk through the showdown slate.
Interesting game.
It is an interesting game. I'm kind of excited for this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. It should be a fun game to watch.
So we got Redskins at Saints. For me, the Saints are probably just a smidge overrated, and the Redskins are a bit underrated. I think most people, if you asked them who is the better team, they'd say Saints by a landslide. And I do think the Saints are the better team, but I don't think there's a major talent discrepancy like a lot of people would think.
I'm so with you there.
All right, next up, guys, for anybody new to the station, that red button, subscribe right there, is there for a reason. Go ahead, get yourself some DFS action from the DFS 5-pack. Hit that red button that says subscribe to get updated on new videos. And as always, do what the Hoff would do and give the thumbs up.
Got me chuckling over here.
And I mean, give the thumbs up. Don't eat a cheeseburger off the floor. Next up, if you want to join the team, guys, baseball, basketball, or football, we got NBA starting in a little over a week. We got monthly, annual, lifetime packages. Those will all take care of all three sports for you, except for NFL only, which is strictly NFL.
Makes sense, huh?
Exactly. Captain mode is new. I think we're finally starting to get the general public a little bit more comfortable with the captain mode. I'm feeling better about it. I don't know about you. I know you don't like these one-game slates as much. And let's be honest with ourselves, guys. It comes down to luck a lot. And we talked about the Will Disley touchdown from Russell Wilson at the very end of the game, week 2. I know one of our viewers lost a GPP on that play, and that sucks. And it's part of the game. Last Thursday, I felt really comfortable with my lineup. I played for more than I generally do in these captain mode spots, and it worked out really well. But it would have been close if I hadn't decided to go Eric Ebron over Ryan Grant. And I had an internal coin flip in my mind on that one. I won the coin flip that day. But there's other days where you're not going to win it, and you're going to be on the wrong end. And I mean, I think most people are probably aware of this already, but it is worth mentioning over and over again. A lot of times there is luck involved.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've talked about that when we win, when we lose. You got to take, everything almost with a grain of salt because some days it'll work out for you. Other days it won't. As you put it kind of best. Some days, you'll be the nail. Other days, hopefully most days you'll be the hammer.
Right. And just think about this game tonight. What are the abilities? What if Drew Brees throws 2 passes that Michael Thomas and Ben Watson get downed at the 1 and Mark Ingram gets 2 cheap touchdowns? And let's say Ingram goes 10 carries, 32 yards, but Hawks 2 cheap touchdowns. Were you right for rostering Mark Ingram? Not really. I mean, he wasn't productive. He didn't get the touches, but he hawked touchdowns. And that's just part of the game, that it's great when you win and it sucks when you lose.
Yep.
All right, potential strategy. I keep bringing this up just so some people will continue to hear it. I don't really see it tonight, but sometimes there are certain strategy or certain times in this captain mode where just skipping, you just punt one of the positions. I wouldn't do it in the captain spot, but you just take some scrubby guy who could very likely give you a 0, but then you get the 5 studs that you want. I don't really view tonight's slate that way, but it is worth noting for future slates.
Yeah, it's something to always kind of consider. put in the back of your mind.
All right, next up. No Ted Ginn today, so I do think paying attention to Cameron Meredith and his cheap price is one of the reasons I'm not really looking to play a very, very inexpensive guy tonight, because I do think you can use Cameron Meredith for the majority of your cap savings right there. And I'm still finding ways to fit a bunch of the really, really good players in my lineup tonight. Look, is Cameron Meredith, having a monster season so far? No, he's not, but he was coming off major surgery. Took him a little bit to get acclimated with his new team. He's now been active in back-to-back weeks. He caught a touchdown in week 3. He had 4 targets last week. But the big thing here is there's no Ted Ginn tonight. And somebody's going to have to catch a couple of passes that's not named Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas.
Definitely. There's one, like you said, no Ginn out kind of opens the door for him to, kind of step up here like we thought at the beginning of the year. Obviously, there's a couple other guys that could take, Meredith's targets away, but they're more unknown. So it just seems like, he's the guy that's going to take those cookies.
It makes the most logical sense that it would be him. Smith has 1 catch all year. Meredith had 4 targets last week.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the most logical progression and the thing that you should expect out of this one. It doesn't mean it's going to be great. I don't expect Cameron Meredith to go out tonight and get you 150 yards or anything like that. The Redskins are pretty damn good at defending the pass as well. So it's not like a crush spot or anything like that. But he's cap savings that I can definitely get on board with. And with no Ted Ginn in, you have to have another wide receiver out there. New Orleans is not going to run one wide receiver formats all day long.
That's so true.
All right, he's cheap. Next up, Jamison Crowder. Now, the most logical game script in here is that the Redskins are either playing from a little bit behind or in a close game with the New Orleans Saints. While anything is possible, I don't picture a game where the Washington Redskins get up big early on New Orleans and they're trying to pound the rock. And quite frankly, the New Orleans Saints are terrible at covering the slot wide receiver, which brings me to my last point. This is something that I was reading on this morning because I had some pretty good data on this one already, and I wanted to make sure to bring it up. Jamison Crowder is emerging as a favorite target for Alex Smith. They like each other. Smith likes to throw to the slot. Coach Jay Gruden says it right there. He plays a lot bigger than his size. He has very long arms, very athletic, and he likes throwing to him. New Orleans is awful at covering slot wide receivers.
They are. I was about to say, I love that quote right there because this is just a crush spot for Crowder here. Like you said, in a game where they have to throw, Saints can't cover them. I mean, what's not to like here, right?
And if you're worried about an Adrian Peterson game, I wouldn't be. The Saints are really good against the run. Number 1 in yards per carry allowed, number 3 in total yardage allowed on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next up, I wanted to go out on a limb and pick kind of a sleeper play, so I wanted to talk about Drew Brees. Yeah, right. This one to me is what I would call basically a must in cash games. I think you have to play Drew Brees in cash games because of his proposed upside. Anytime they play at home, and I don't think Washington is this great crush spot, but I think Drew Brees is so good and at home, he's going to be super chalky and very, very popular. I would lock him into my cash lineups. I play mostly cash in football in general, but definitely within the captain mode. I think he's as close to a must play as you have on this slate.
I agree with you. I mean, just for the fact that where else are you going to go? I mean, it's a 1-game slate.
Right. I can see not playing him in the GPP. And what I talked about there, with Mark Ingram back, we haven't seen it yet this year. We don't know exactly what the Saints plan on doing with him, if they're going to ease him in or if they're just going to let him, they want to probably lower the workhorse abilities of Kamara just because you need that guy healthy for the rest of the year. And you just can't give a guy 30 touches over and over again, target him 22 times in the passing game and things like that. So there is a potential game script where maybe Mark Ingram's a bigger part of the equation that we figure. So a GPP fade isn't crazy, but I think that's a lot of potential to just ruin your lineup too. So I just think the easiest and lowest resistance is just play Drew Brees everywhere.
Yeah, I think obviously it could work out because maybe he doesn't get the touchdowns, but I agree with you. It's just a logical thing is to play him.
Right? I'm expecting him to be 85% owned in cash games, maybe even higher. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's a struggle not to play him, but there is a good conversation to be made around the GPP fade. If you think that maybe the Saints get up early and then they just pound it with Ingram and Kamara a little bit more, I could see it. I just think it's it's definitely going on a limb.
I feel like the GPP fade comes just from the fact that he's going to be like 80% owned. So like you said, if they do run a couple touchdowns in, and it could be a night where he doesn't score that well. That's just all you're playing for.
Right. And if you guys remember last year, like Drew Brees wasn't a great fantasy quarterback. He was only okay. And they were using the running game very, very effectively. Washington is also capable of being beaten by the run more so than the pass. So it is possible. There is a potential game script right there, but it is a risky fade because I'm just going to keep this one simple. It's Drew Mother effing Brees, who is really good.
Amen.
Next up, this is another spot where I do plan to double up on quarterbacks here. And an average QB game against New Orleans this season is 310 passing yards, give or take. I didn't look too closely, just glanced at it, and almost 3 touchdowns per game. That's a big DFS game. Saints are number 1 in yards per carry allowed via the running game and number 3 in rushing yards allowed. It is so much easier to beat them via the pass that this game screams Alex Smith all over it. And while Alex Smith is not an elite fantasy play, he's decent. And he's got a great matchup, and if he's playing from behind, he's going to have to throw it.
Yeah, prime time with a week off. I mean, I'm all about it.
I like Alex Smith a lot right here. And while Brees is a better quarterback than Smith, there is no arguments there. If you're arguing with me, you're just wrong. There's in modern society, people don't seem to know the difference between opinions and facts, but this one's just a fact. Drew Brees is better than Alex Smith. But tonight, I wouldn't be shocked if Alex Smith outscored Drew Brees.
I actually think he does outscore Drew Brees, and for a lot of the reasons that you've been harping on me, you want the QB for the team that's just coming back. I mean, look at Aaron Rodgers yesterday. Look at Blake Bortles. Bortles played like shit, 5 turnovers. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he still outscored Mahomes, I think, because he threw so much and he got some late touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers was on the Millie Maker lineup because he was coming back. We got to assume that. I don't think this is a big-time score discrepancy, but I think Washington's coming from behind, and if not, it's because they scored. I like Smith a lot here.
One of the keys to upping your game in DFS is really learning to exploit matchups and figuring out what teams are good at, what teams are bad at. And for example, yesterday, like as the week progressed and I heard more love for Austin Hooper, I thought he'd have more ownership than he was, but he wasn't. You know what I mean? I think he was about 10%, give or take. But that was the easiest matchup that you're going to get right now. Right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers are just awful against the tight end position. The Saints are pretty damn good at stopping the run, but are terrible at stopping the pass. So Alex Smith, to me, this is a spot where I want to double up on quarterbacks. We've talked about quarterbacks all season. They have such a high floor because they're always involved in the game. And this isn't like baseball where a starting pitcher can get rocked and get taken out. Like the only chance that these guys don't score points is if they get hurt, and you can't play that way.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Smith a ton here. I like the Washington offense. I think you can use a few pieces from it. I like Smith as kind of the centerpiece.
Definitely. All right. Well, that's how review this one. I do like this one.
There's one cheap guy I just want to throw out there if he makes the lineup today, because I heard he might start. That could be available for people, and that's Maurice Harris, who's only $3K, who heard through the grapevine might be starting for Josh Doctson. So just throwing that out there for people.
Yeah, Doctson's currently questionable right now, and even when he has played, has been a big letdown early on this season, which is probably partly due to Smith not being great to throw to outside guys. But, if he's out, cheap guys in there make a lot of sense in an offense we think has to throw.
Yeah, so guys, I agree with you. Doctson, it kind of looks like one of those guys that, we think that he could be breaking out, but I need to see that first. And I'm kind of with you. This might not be the best quarterback situation for him either.
Right. So it is what it is. You guys want to join the DFS 5-pack team? We would love to have you. Go sign up through the website. We got NBA starting real soon. And we'll talk some preseason for the next couple of days, but preseason just isn't as much fun. You know what I mean? Like the games aren't as meaningful. You don't get to watch as many of them on television, and the information on who to look at sucks and is harder to find just to find crappy information.
No doubt.
So listen to us, listen to the customers. That being said, I'm all done with this one, guys. Best of luck tonight. Let's go out and win ourselves some cold-hearted quiche.
Thanks, guys.